Your time check 9:32 on Solutions 939 FM. It's a lovely Monday morning, and interestingly, it is the first working day of the week, the first working day of the month, and of course, the very first day of a brand new month of July 2024. I'll start by saying Happy New Month to our esteemed listener out there. My name is AYODEJI LAFENWA, and we're set to take you through some major stories in some of today's national dailies on from the daily segment on AM Update. And this morning it's taking a new turn. It's a new month actually, so it's a new month, new dimension. I'll be doing this with comrade AYODEJI, AJISOPE, a seasoned broadcaster and a public analyst, and we have quite a number of stories to talk about this morning. One of the screaming stories that we have this morning is the very unfortunate situation, the news that we got from Borno State, Mararaba to be precise, where we had 3 different suicide bombings claiming the lives of more than 17 people. But let me go through the pages of the newspapers this morning, then we'll do justice to the analysis this morning. It's AM Update on Solutions 93.9 FM. Good morning once again. All right, starting with the Punch newspaper this morning, starting from the top headlines, I have this one saying, Japa outrage as UK-based driver remains on FG payroll. Senate resumes probe as AGF submits 30 trillion naira loan document. FG withdraws 5 oil blocks from 2024 bid round. And to the biggest story on the front page of the Punch newspaper this Monday morning, import duty, bank plane grounded as FG clamps down on private jets. Aircraft stopped from flying over alleged 1.9 billion naira unpaid import duties. And there are pictures of the victims of the triple bomb blast in Borno over the weekend. There are pictures of the victims on the front page of the Punch newspaper with the caption, US UN condemn Borno bombing. Tinubu vows to crush Boko Haram. Police guard Rivers Hospital treating explosion suspect. Suspected herders hack Ogun rice farmer to death. And the last one I'll be taking from the front page of the Punch newspaper says TCN repairs plunge Ondo Ekiti to 2-month blackout. Moving away from the Punch newspaper, I'm taking the Tribune now. Tribune newspaper, the biggest story is condemning the attack, the bomb attack. It says Borno Atiku Obi flay bomb attacks. US offers support. Tinubu assures citizens. NDLEA raids Abuja drug party. Arrest 60. Edo APC PDP trade words over government project. LG autonomy. FG urged dragging states to court. Okukwe. And another one says our government policies infrastructure deficit threaten Nigeria's $6.5 billion beer market. Okay, one more thing from the Nigerian Tribune, one more story. Shaun has always appointed Ogbomoso chief imam since 1818. League of Imams, I mean, this was an issue that was generating a controversy sometime last week, talking about Shaun of Ogbomoso sending query to the chief imam of Ogbomoso land. And interestingly, I have an Ogbomoso man with me in the studio this morning, but we'll get to that when the time comes. Away from the Nigerian Tribune, let's take this from the Vanguard newspaper. Agony as FG's retirees groan under 230 billion naira pension arrears. Why I want Southeast governors to work together. Obi, that story is found on page 37. Exit of multinationals, opportunity for local industries. MAN, that is Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. That story is found on page 22. Now, Band A, Disco's monthly revenue rises 42.29% to 142.92 billion naira. I think the Discos are beginning to cash out, talking about the band from the Band A consumers. Okay, it's about time for
invest.
Okay, I mean, they should invest this money they are realizing from this thing. Okay, Comrade AYODEJI AJISOPE, it's good to have you with us. We've always been having you virtually, but today we have the Egunla himself, right, physically in the studio this morning.
Thank you so much, Damola.
Okay, let's take a trip to Borno State, where we had this unfortunate incident which occurred on Saturday morning. I mean, there were 3 different bomb blasts, suicide bombers, and not just suicide bombers, they were female suicide bombers. And it's been believed that this particular government is not really doing enough when it comes to handling security issues. I mean, we remember that the last time we had the suicide bombing was in the days of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan during the Boko Haram, when Boko Haram was just stepping its foot on the soil of Nigeria. I mean, but this coming up, and there have been conspiracy theories suggesting the fact that, okay, suicide bombing stopped when Jonathan left, when a northerner came in. Now, we don't have a northerner as a president anymore. We have a southerner again, and this issue is resurfacing. Let's take it from there.
Maybe we should take a look at the background, where we're coming from.
Okay.
There were numerous bomb blasts. I can't forget the gory scene of the UN headquarters bombing in Abuja in the days of Jonathan. And we had them, sporadic bombings. I won't forget the day, I think Jonathan was inaugurated. And, you know, there were reports that there was going to be bombing at the state. And I think there was a blast outside.
And I remember the Nyanya too.
The Nyanya bombings. Now, 3 bombs were IEDs, actually, the water bombs were detonated by women. And one of them had a baby strapped on her back. Now that gives you an insight into the kind of people we're dealing with.
You can imagine a suicide bomber with a baby strapped.
Yeah, a baby strapped to her back. So that means you went away, you know, with the baby. That gives you an insight into the mind of the kind of people we're dealing with. And only 3 IEDs were detonated. There were 18 of them. The remainder were apprehended. And that we should give some credit to the military. You see, this is not a regular warfare. The battlefields are not defined. These are guys that will just spring up, and that means for you to know and have advanced information, it means you must have solid intelligence networks. This has been the bane of our security or insecurity, as you may wish to call it. Intelligence is key. And when you're talking about intelligence, we also recall that during the days of President Jonathan, at the height of it all, President Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic opened his mouth and said Boko Haram was in his government.
Yeah.
But if Boko Haram was in your government and you knew it, so what did you do? What did you do?
Probably that was one of the reasons they tagged him clueless then.
Well, let's not even just
go there, okay? All right.
Okay. Open another.
Okay, now let's talk about
now this conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory now.
You see, in the Nigerian space, it is easy for us to do all these conspiracy theories. Of course, there was information too that even the farmer herders clashes was, you know, increased because some people were brought into Nigeria prior to 2015 election. They were expected to, you know, start, you know, internal insurrection if Jonathan lost and was not going to leave. Well, and I remember we have Dr. Bugaji, the gentleman that was very close to Saraki from Kwara, gave us that information that had never been controverted. But of course, we also saw that things might have scaled down now, might have. But the terrorism index does not show that things are scaling down. Those are the facts that we deal with. Yes, there might not be reports of the last 6 months or thereabout. But one thing I've noticed about this administration in terms of fighting insecurity is that they are not being dramatic about it. They are going about it silently and rather than being dramatic.
Okay.
they are going about it silently.
You
And
know,
I think,
comrade, I just want to come in here. I mean, just this weekend, I had a particular story of a kidnapping along Ilishon Remo Road. Some passengers
Yeah.
were kidnapped, about 20 of them,
Yeah.
and this around the northeast too. 17 people were killed sometime over the weekend too because they were unable to meet up with the ransom being demanded. I mean, it seems we having lots of security issues, and it seems this bandits or whatever you want to call them, kidnappers, that business seems to be thriving.
it is good you call it a business. And you know that for you to own an AK-47 or 49, you won't have anything less than 750,000 to #1,000,000 naira.
For one.
Oh
rifle.
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
You see, those guys we see on the road, when they are caught and interrogated, they say they were giving 500,000, 200,000, and they're collecting ransom in tens of millions. So that means the guys we see on the road doing the kidnapping are actually not, there are financiers, there are people in the, behind the scenes, and there are people who get them out of, custody. A policeman was, so it is always good to go around in public transport sometimes. That's how you get the feel of the people.
From the people, yeah.
I was at a location, I was coming here, and it rained. So we were all clustered. There were policemen here in our midst. And, of course, you lower your guard and talk to them. And I was saying, look, people will come. They will apprehend people, criminals, and they will get calls from, like they say,
From the top, yeah.
And they say, we are the ones that so release. And that's an order. Orders is order when it comes from superior. So, and then let us factor in the economic conditions. Educated, vibrant young people. Bad, sad that they are diverting their energies, their expertise, their knowledge so negatively.
I was going to ask you that too, because, apart from what the government should do, I mean, one of the things government should do, apart from tackling the insecurity issue, is to talk about, address the psyche, the mindset of those people. Like you said, I mean, one of the suicide bombers, a female, had to strap a baby, an innocent child.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the state of mind of those people? Shouldn't government address this too?
Well, you see, what do they tell them? You're going to tell somebody to go and, stake his or her life. What is the objective? What is the profit? You understand? It's not about nationalism. And when you start it's not nationalism. He didn't do it in the name of Nigeria. He didn't do it in the name of his ethnic nationality. So when you start convincing or is it confusing people regarding issues like that based on faith, on religion, and that you will go somewhere and then you will go to heaven, and that is not rational, not logical. So those minds, that is a lot of indoctrination. Look at IC, what they're doing. Terrible things that they're doing. So that is in the realm, that is on the table of spiritual leaders. And of course, that the spiritual institutions, the traditional institutions, the entire society has become totally, degraded in terms of corruption. And when I say corruption, I'm not talking about corruption in terms of money in this country. And that was what Jonathan was trying to say when he said corruption is not stealing. He got it wrong the way he delivered it. Corruption is beyond stealing. We have narrowed corruption to stealing in this country. Corruption means when there are systems, there are processes and procedures laid down, the moment you want to jump it, the moment you want to subvert it, that is corruption. So when somebody comes with resources and giving out resources, and on the basis of what he's giving, you say, okay, let's make him a high chief, let's make him Baba Dini, let's make him Baba Ijo. And you don't do due diligence. I mean, normally you do due diligence. Even, marriage, families do due diligence. You understand? So that is the way and the systems we operate culturally and traditionally. But nobody does that again. So that is the corruption that I am talking about. It's way beyond money. It is way beyond money.
Okay, just before we leave this insecurity issue, what should the government do?
Well, intelligence. Let me go back to the days of what they call E-branch. I remember MD Yusuf very, very well. Eventually became an IG.
IG, yeah.
And when Murtala Mohammed coup took place, in annoyance, the military got involved with the police. They took the E branch out and turned it into NSO. That was the beginning of the degradation of the police and the intelligence. The bedrock of security is intelligence. But you see, processes, when you favor somebody, okay, you go there, not based on purely merit, until we go back. Look, the police, we have found that in the police, or the police found that the police recruited known criminals. I mean, how do you pass through a system? But it is now a matter of sponsorship. Who is the sponsor? Then the person won't go through due diligence anymore because he is being sponsored by XYZ. And of course, you know it is slots now. Before in the police, they were recruiting on a monthly basis at Ikeja. Now it is slots. Slots to senators, slots to members of House of Reps, slots to chairmen, slots to ministers. And of course, if it is slots, you cannot reject it.
And we also had recently we had a kind of alleged recruitment shady practice in talking about the recruitment of police force too.
I mean, this is corruption at the highest level, and we are talking about security here. How do you not corrupt the process of recruitment into a security organization? What do you get? What do you get?
Okay, it's still AM Update on Solutions 93.9 FM. You can be a part of the program by calling the studio lines 0909-888-9939, 0909-888-9939, or 0912-222-2939, 0912-222-2939. You can as well drop your comment on our Facebook page, Solutions 939 FM. Let's move to another issue. I mean, there was an outrage on Sunday talking about a UK-based taxi driver who had previously been on the Federal Civil Service payroll here in Nigeria. And after despite disengaging from service since 2022, this young man, about 36 years of age, is still earning his monthly salary of 150,000 naira. What do you make out of it? You know, we spoke about this on the program last week.
Yeah, and I told you that way back in 1991, my sister departed for the UK, and she did not disengage. Of course, you know, the system found out, and they wrote her guarantor, my father's friend. And of course, my father promptly got in touch with her and asked her to disengage. And all she wanted to do was to clock 10 years in service.
So that she'll be pensionable.
But you see, that's illegal. That's what she was able to do it, you know, because of some level of collaboration with the people
within
she
the
worked
system.
with. Just a few weeks ago, maybe about a fortnight ago, the guy in charge of reform of the civil service, Bureau of Reform, said that they caught 70,000 ghost workers. Now, how did they get on the payroll? How are they sustained there for that long? There must be, you know, an accountant general of Nigeria that was engaged and in charge of the IPPIS was alleged to have taken 107 billion. I mean, how does these things happen? But it happens because there is connivance, there is collusion. And it is not a small scale thing. So many people were involved. Because if I'm going to feed data, not one single person is involved in it. You understand? There are levels of control. That means no control is being done. So everybody that is supposed to check, you know, you're supposed to check X, and X is supposed to check Y, Y is supposed to check Z. So rather than do the checking, everybody is collaborating to subvert the system. You see, and I think this happens. This young man, you've gone to England. You said you were seeking greener pastures, isn't it?
Yes.
That is why you left. So when you are seeking and you have gotten to your greener pasture, so why are you still holding on to the not so green pasture that you departed?
You know, probably he was skeptical about he will be able to survive over there for that long.
You take your decisions. You take your decisions, and you weigh your options. You take your decisions, and you stick to it. And the guy, I read the story, and the guy was saying he was wondering whether it was, you know, what it was going to look. No. There's no room for that. When you take your decision, and let us ask ourselves, can that happen in the private sector for 1 month? For 1 month, the moment you give notice of your resignation, they act promptly on it. Here, you give notice, and then you will go back 2 months after. You will still find the letter in the drawer of the officer that you
submitted it to.
I have seen people resign, tender their resignation, and come back 3 months later and withdraw it. It has not gone through the system. But you see, bottom line is this: Nigerians do not feel a sense of stakeholding. If I think we work in this organization and I think I have a sense of stakeholding, and I see somebody doing something that will ultimately affect the well-being of this institution, I will tell the person. I will either report or tell the person. But when I don't feel waiting concern me, you understand? As long as I get my pay, and it is beyond that, beyond getting your pay, is the organization growing or is it stagnated? And if it is stagnated, certainly it means it is going back. And the dangerous thing is that they are doing it. If you see somebody doing it, you can be sure that there are other 10 locations, if it's a small organization, that people are doing such. And at the end of the day, if they're stealing 1 million there, 2 million there, 5 million there, it affects, it is the middle. And there's not even no middle class anymore. It is the people in the lower echelon of society that it will affect. It will affect funding of infrastructure, it will affect health and education.
Definitely. But comrade, I mean, I understand the fact that we can't rule out the connivance in this kind of shady practice when it comes to that. But do you feel the government system put in place by government is even effective enough? Because I've seen cases of people disengaging from civil service, and there is this IPPIS portal that keeps paying them. And this also goes to people that have retired from service that keep on getting their pensions, or even after death, they're still getting paid. Do you feel that system needs to be looked into, at least to do proper checking?
You see,
leaving out the connivance of bosses in
systems. People, even these systems that we use, there are, what do they call them? Applications on them. There is what they call the trapdoor. Even those who designed it, you need to leave a loophole. You understand? If there is a malfunction, for you to be able to access, you understand? So now, my father passed on in 2002. When we went to the bank, maybe 2007 or thereabout, to do something about the estate, we found out that money was still being paid. Now, there was an organization that was responsible for reporting. The Pensioners Association. They were to report. They got information, we informed them. They were to report, to the appropriate authorities that this guy has passed on, which in essence, kindly stop, payment of pensions. They didn't do that. And then, when people are beneficiaries of sleaze, we have heard as a hearing of situations in which, even if you go report, they will simply set up another account to start continue to receive. So, our systems, when we talk about systems, people man those systems. They create systems, but people man them. What are the people manning such systems? What are they thinking? Are they thinking of benefiting, from it by corrupting it and by subverting it? That is the problem. It's not about systems. There are laws and policies. When we ask people, policemen, they say there are laws and policies in this country. But the problem is, who are those operating those systems?
Those systems.
They are not self-operating.
Okay, it's 4 minutes to 10 on Solutions 93.9 FM, still on AM Updates. Let's move to another story. But since we are still talking about federal government and civil service issue, there is this screaming, not so good story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper saying that agony as FG's retirees grown under 230 billion naira pension arrears. And looking at the riders, no payment made for over a year. Legally binding upward review suspended for 15 years. Stakeholders call for boycott of government securities and regular dialogue pressure from labor required. Pen up. Now, looking at this not so good stories, we're talking about these people that have served the country, served in different capacities for at least nothing less than 35 years sometimes, and they are being subjected to this kind of agony. And we've had cases of some public officers in court stealing from this pension fund too?
I remember
Has the government been fair enough for this to these people?
Well, there are systems in place. You understand?
Systems again.
It's about systems.
Okay.
Contributory pension scheme.
Yeah.
They deduct a certain percentage of the worker's salary. And then government or the employer, as it may be, contributes a certain percentage
as well.
Now, government was deducting. Even they are deducting, not remitting into the appropriate purses. And they are not even making, of course, if they are deducting and not remitting, that means they are not even remitting, they are not paying their own. If you can deduct from a salary, you understand, and not remit to there are designated accounts for such purposes. But because I remember this thing started in 1980.
Where is all this money going to?
Like you said, one gentleman stole about how many billions? And he went to court, he was fined. He just dipped his hand in his pocket and paid the fine. In fact, I remember when the matter went to Senate, what is the man's name? Senator David Mark, he was the Senate president. He cried on live television. Even a man that is known not to be so clean himself. The man cried openly on TV. Now, why are people like this? You see, our civil service needs reform. My father worked in the bureaucracy, and I remember when Murtala Mohammed came, that was when the trouble started. Civil servants didn't think of anything. A minister, a commissioner will bring a memo. The permanent secretary will reply the memo and say, this cannot be done. And the minister will just have to stop there. Because they were permanent secretaries, they knew their onions, they were trained.
That means then permanent secretary was superior kind of to the...
They were the accounting officers. Even now, the commissioners are not the accounting officers. The commissioners, the ministers, and the permanent secretary is the accounting officer. They will say, no, you cannot do this. This is what the law says. This is what the financial regulation says. And it will end there. Now, what happened? Murtala Mohammed came. People were on their way. Civil servants. They were not thinking of anything. I know civil servants who were fired in 1975. A father's friend. He didn't have a piece of property. He didn't even have land. If not for the fact that the wife was working, a permanent secretary was working in UCH as a matron, that he quickly went and bought a piece of land. They had official residences. They had official cars. How much did they earn? But they were contented with what they were doing. They didn't look elsewhere. But when Murtala Mohammed came, and they were on their way, you will close at 3. I think they used to close at 3:30. They resumed 7:30 or something like that. And then 7:30 to 3:30, yes. And then you're on your way home in your car, and you hear that your name being read out has been fired. Dismissed. Retired. Dismissed on the radio. After how many years? And you knew nothing else? You didn't know how to do any other thing. You didn't look elsewhere.
No saving for the rainy days.
No savings anywhere. And then they say, they got wiser. And then it became the job of the bureaucrats to now navigate for politicians. Say this is where, okay, how will a minister know how many accounts the ministry owes? And then this account is for this and this is for that. Of course you won't know now. Those who have been in the system for 20-25 years, climbing, holding different positions. They know that. So they started showing the politicians the way. The bureaucrats are probably worse than the politicians, but I don't blame them. One government woke up and drove academics out of university quarters. That was when you started seeing professors building, buying property in Bodija. They never thought about it. Academics are engaged in so many things now, apart from academics. Research and teaching. That is full-time. But they don't do that anymore. You won't get the best out of them. You won't get the best out of them. Bureaucrats, they have houses in all the estates, highbrow estates in Ibadan. Go and ask them where they got the money from.
But now, let's talk about the fate of this.
The fate of those guys. Their monies have gone somewhere else. Look, we must move from
no payment made for over a year.
We have to move away from this thing. Government cannot afford to pay this thing. But why there must be an automatic trigger. if you can deduct my money, and then automatic trigger, dedicated account that you cannot touch, that is not accessible to government. The thing triggers, goes there, and then, you see, we must move away to...
Comrade, you know, the sad part of this issue is that you've deducted my money, and I'm not even having
and
access to it.
you are not making what statutory contribution.
Even while in service, you've deducted my money for my pensions. Now I am a pensioner. I'm a retiree, and I'm still being owed. Nothing is coming to my table.
In this state, have you forgotten the governor who told pensioners that, and you'll be money? I haven't worked for 35 years. But you see, let us learn from the private sector. My wife left her job. The company she worked with last committed the error of not, remitting. When a call was placed to the executive director in charge, the payment was made before close of work that day, in bulk.
That was the private sector.
Of course, they know the consequences. They paid to the pension fund administrator before the close of work that day. But now, in the civil service, you can pass the buck. It is X, it is Y. You can't pass the buck in the private sector. The buck stops at your table. But these people, it is so sad. Very, very, look, even civil servants. Okay, the wage award the federal government gave, are you sure they are getting it in the federal level? They're not getting it. They are owed even the wage award as pronounced by the federal government.
But we heard that the money has been released.
Released? You know, when it is released, that is what they call cash backing.
No, maybe you should explain that. I didn't get that part.
There is a warrant.
Okay, because I'm sure the money has been released.
There is a warrant that is signed. Then it goes to the finance. The finance will do it. Then it will now go to the office as there's a accountant general. Then that is where you get the cash backing. The accountant general can say there are no funds in that particular account. That is where the cash backing comes from. There's a warrant of release, and then there's the cash backing.
So who is fooling who here?
Bureaucracy, we are fooling ourselves.
It is well. It's still AM Update on Solutions 93.9 FM. Now, I read it somewhere this morning that the downstream committee of the Senate is saying that the refineries will begin operations by January 2025. I mean, we've had this promises of refineries coming up. Now, do we take this serious at all? Or should Nigerians take this promise coming from the Senate Committee on Downstream Sector, assuring us that our refineries that have been dead for many years will start producing by January?
Let us look at it from this perspective. Even Aliko Dangote, that has built a privately owned refinery, is having serious challenges.
It's screaming of sabotage.
It's screaming of sabotage. And where is it coming from? Where is the sabotage coming from? Somebody keeps telling me that even Dangote himself was a part of the cabal, that now he's no longer with the cabal. He's working against the interests of the cabal. And what does it mean? Importation of products will cease when Dangote starts operating at full capacity. Of course, we all know that currently, even as we speak, there is subsidy, a level of subsidy being paid, and it is being paid to some people. These same old people that caused the original subsidy scam. So they're still in the picture. When Dangote starts operating full blast, and the other refineries, Bua is causing, Dan Tata, what is it? Is building his own refinery, not as big as Dangote. Port Harcourt 1 and 2 will come on stream. Kaduna will come on stream. We will be exporting. And when I say we, all those refineries will even be exporting. Dangote says he will supply the whole of West Africa and Central Africa, PMS, AGO, aviation fuel, LPFO, and jet fuel. He said the whole of the continent. He's selling internally, then he's making, foreign exchange. And of course, foreign exchange that he makes will go into the central bank. That will be liquidity. The pressure of importation will take pressure off foreign exchange. All those money that is being used to import products will be available for manufacturers.
Comrade, I want to say this morning that a quarter of Nigeria, or some Nigerians believe that we are not a serious country, in the sense that which country will survive on just one operational refinery when we have like 4 others that the government is not looking into at all to resuscitate? And we are all dependent now on a private refinery. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Look, you see, government is in business. Government is running NNPC. One day soon, NNPC will land on the stock market.
The question now is, okay, we've been saying so many issues now that the government cannot do this, government can. What is now the role of the government?
Enabling environment, conducive environment. I want to set up a company here. Let the bureaucracy work smoothly. I'm looking for land. I'm looking for skilled workers. I'm looking for unskilled workers. Let there be no bottlenecks. Ambush. One man that the president went to in India, big investor, come to Nigeria. The man said, my documents, my papers have been stuck in the bureaucratic maze of Abuja in the past 1 year. Because people, okay, I'm coming to invest in an environment, and people, the country in which I'm coming to invest, they are asking for bribe.
Can imagine.
I want to invest 100 million. And they are doing their own calculations based on the 100 million. If this man can invest 100 million, we should be able to get 10 million from him.
So what's our cut?
What is our cut? That's why I tell you that Nigerians do not have a sense of stakeholding. I would ordinarily say, this man is doing 100 million. Let's help him. He will employ 1,000 people. And if he employs 1,000 people, you know, maybe out of 1,000, 200 have families. They have dependents. Even if you don't have family, of course, if you are not a family man, as in husband, you will have dependents. You have parents. You have siblings.
Yes.
People are not thinking like that. People are thinking, me, myself. We're not going to go nowhere like that. If we think it is a Tinubu that will move Nigeria forward, we're deceiving ourselves. If we think it is a governor that will move Oyo State forward, we're deceiving ourselves. When government builds rail, I was reading last week, people are going to remove public utility. Where was I yesterday? And I said, yesterday afternoon, between UI and Bodija Market, you know, my wife was in there, and I said, there used to be, you know, railings on the island.
But when
they removed it.
When we talk about this, can we really absorb the government? I mean, the same person that will remove metals, covert and everything here in Nigeria would not even think of trying that in the UK or in the US.
Because sanction. Let me tell you.
So don't you feel the government is even giving them an opportunity, an avenue for all these shady dealings to thrive? Because I know that I won't be caught. It's easy for me to
even if you are caught.
Even if I'm caught, there's somebody somewhere.
You breach traffic rule. You're on the highway. You breach traffic rule. A policeman or road traffic officer apprehends you and cites your infraction. And you look at him. Shegun. She be your back and on you.
And the funny thing is that this same person committing the traffic offense will not do that outside the country.
Because they won't do it in Benin Republic.
So what is now the problem? So can we now really absorb the government from all these things?
Look,
if I know I have a working government that will apprehend me for doing things like that, then I will restrain myself from that automatically.
Because we are not psyched up to think Nigeria. We are not psyched up to think us. We are psyched up to think I, me, myself. And nobody lives like that. Even the head of a family cannot think I, me, myself. Because when you get your income, you have to think about your family. Or how do you think? Do you think about yourself alone?
No, not at all.
You think about your family.
They come first.
They come first. That is it. But when Nigerians, I was in a tricycle. One woman, you know, took a PET bottle and threw it out. I said, stop, go and pick it. He said, Nigeria Lawa. What's the meaning of Nigeria Lawa?
And because there's
anything goes.
Anything goes. That is why I'm saying they can really absorb the government.
There will be consequences. That ends up in the drainage. And then there is rain. And then there's a flood. And then people start saying, government will share that. What's the meaning of that? How did the drainages got blocked? When it starts raining, you see people bringing out bags of refuse.
I see that a lot.
Who does that? Any sane human being does that. And they will blame government. Look, this is beyond government. It is beyond government.
Comrade, that same person that is bringing out dirt during rain will not try that in the UK?
Well, you are not going to do that because there is provision.
So why do they have a kind of a mind reset when they leave the shores of the country, and they cannot do that
Because
here in Nigeria?
I mean, you need to be taken for a psychiatric evaluation.
Everything.
They will take you for evaluation, psychiatric evaluation.
Over there.
What do you think? What would be wrong with you?
Okay, let me take this comment from Adedamola Okunlola on our Facebook page. The federal government should do the needful by paying them their pension. These pensioners served their country and the money was deducted from their salaries all through their period of service. In Oyo State, the governor used his salary to pay the pensioners and they are happy. It will be nice.
He uses what?
in Oyo State, I'll read it again. That's how I wanted to read it. In Oyo State, the governor uses his salary to pay the pensioners and they are happy. It will be nice if the federal government can emulate this too.
Well, that apparently is a misrepresentation.
As we wrap up,
it's a misrepresentation. But honestly, you know,
it's a misrepresentation. Maybe you should shed light on that so that the Adedamola Okunlola will know what is
how much does the governor earn? How much is the wage bill of pensioners? That is
but that is what we hear in the news. I mean, the governor will come out and say, okay, I'm using my salary, I'm giving up my salary to attend to this.
I think let me just leave it at that. It's a misrepresentation. But the fact is that since he came into office, I hear labor leaders. I still heard one say he does not know how the governor of this state does it. But somebody gave me an insight how they do it. But the fact is that but nobody should tell us that because they pay salaries, they are doing the people a favor. The Yoruba say, Ogun Alaru ki igbe. A man has work, you pay. So that is no favor. You are not doing anybody any favor. But the commendable thing the man has done is that since he came to office, the moment you drop your letter of notice of retirement, believe you me, if you compile all your documents, the next month, the next salary, you will start collecting pension. Yes, he's paying, and then if you are, you collect your own, he's paying the backlog. He met a backlog. And then the one you were talking about, they call it consequential adjustment.
Yes.
So, nobody had been doing it for pensioners. And of course, you have to do that too for them.
Okay.
Look, the thing is that they should take everybody off government pension and all of that. Take things to pension fund administrators. All right,
Comrade AYODEJI, I would have loved us to have more time, but
time.
We'll be back again tomorrow morning for another edition of AM Update, starting off with Kickoff Sport with Oladapo Kunubi. Then we move into the From the Daily segment. Thank you very much, Comrade AYODEJI.
My pleasure, always, Comrade.
In a jiffy, we'll be having Victory Oyedikachi coming in to present the program Solutions Clinic. My name is Adedamola LAFENWA, wishing us a money-making Monday. Good morning.
Money-making. Lovely word.